Okay, so my next question is, can you please predict the full lineup for Portugal from goalkeeper, defense, midfielder, and forward? Can you what's your view for the first team?
Okay, yeah, that's obviously something which everybody is trying to to work out now. What would be the team? I think it would be the following 11. I think the defense, there's not much doubt. I think it will almost certainly be Diogo Costa, the Porto goalkeeper. In goal, João Cancelo, right back. Nuno Mendes, PSG left back. And then central defenders will be Pep and Ruben Dias. The only slight doubt there is Pep, who has been injured he missed about 5 weeks. He only came back last weekend for Porto's game against Boavista, and he just played the last few minutes, last 5 or 6 minutes. It's interesting. I actually asked Fernando Santos on Wednesday in the pre-match press conference what was Pep's fitness. Was he likely to be a starter in the World Cup? And he just replied that he's getting better, day by day. He said he'd be playing in this game against Nigeria some minutes, which actually happened yesterday. He came on for the second half. He had the second 45 minutes, and he said there were still 8 days, 7 or 8 days for the first game. So I think that's almost certain that Pep will be okay. So centre back, the defence, actually probably Portugal's pretty solid, strong point, I would say. Cancelo right back, Mendes left back, Pep and Diaz in the middle. Okay, as for midfield, this is where it starts getting a little bit more complicated. I think with the way Fernando Santos has played the last few months and Portugal's best performances the last few months, I think he would choose 4-2-3-1 formation. And the two kind of slightly more withdrawn midfielders, I think, would be William Carvalho and Ruben Neves. Those two have played together a few times in the last few months, and whenever they have done, Portugal have usually played pretty well. So I think those two will definitely be the starters. Well, definitely, that's my opinion. Portugal have so much. They're really spoiled for choice, especially in midfield. So it is quite difficult to predict. João Palhinha, for example, has been doing fantastically in the Premier League. A lot of people are calling for him to play. William Carvalho is a player who kind of splits opinion a little bit. I think he's a magnificent player, magnificent passer, but some people point out that they think he's a bit too slow in the big games. But anyway, I think that's going to be William and Neves. Okay, in the middle, I think Bruno and Bernardo. Absolutely no doubt those two are going to play. Bernardo Silva probably on the right, cutting in like he does so often at Manchester City. Bruno Fernandes, I think, a little bit more central. And I think the position which I have the most doubts about is who's going to be on the left of that three in the midfield. It could be, for instance, Rafael Leão, who's played really well, obviously in Italy, as Player of the Year in Italy last season, started this season very strongly. Also, that bring real pace to Portugal's attack, also, which is something which they may be lacking. I think it also could be Otávio, who's a lot more kind of energetic and physical, which is something which sometimes Portugal lacks a little bit. And I'm not sure, we certainly have the impression here in Portugal and from previous games that, for instance, South Korea especially, very physical side, very fit, very hard running. So he could be definitely a choice for that game. And the third possibility for that position is João Felix, which yesterday, of course, that's where he started on the left, kind of on the left-hand side, but also then driving into the middle, ended up a lot of times centrally next to Andre Silva, who was playing a striker yesterday. And so I think that's quite a strong possibility now. And of course, Cristiano Ronaldo, it will be up front. And so, I'd say the only doubts for me are on that left-hand side of midfield. It could be Otávio, it could be Leão, it could be João Felix. perhaps yesterday, Felix was just so good, and that maybe he will get the nod.
The issue is all three are very good, great players. The issue for Korean team, because so who is chosen, whoever is chosen, is still strong team, very strong team.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. The thing is, Portugal, I don't know the impression you have with them, Songbo, but I think a lot of people around the world and a lot of people here in Portugal also, you look at their squad and it's just such a strong squad, such a lot of really high quality players there, and it really has not perhaps lived up to expectation the last few tournaments, you could say. So, a lot of people blame Fernando Santos for that. They say he's not getting the best out of these players. Other people think it's just, we have to remember Fernando Santos is the only manager who's ever won a tournament for Portugal. Of course, Euro 2016. So, a lot of people think the expectations are a little bit too unrealistic on him. But let's see, there's this big hope in Portugal always that things will just click, because we've got players that really are among the best players in the world, without a doubt. But it very rarely clicks. Occasionally it has clicked, a couple of times this year in the Nations League games against Switzerland at home and away against the Czech Republic. Portugal won both of those games 4-0 and just played really, really well. Everything was just very cohesive with the team. And we're just hoping that, Portugal catch a moment where this happens in this World Cup. Let's wait and see.
Just one more question about the first team. I mean, obviously Portugal have Ronaldo and Bernardo Silva and Bruno Fernandes, and then three possible choice on the left side. I mean, if you choose one player, one most important player, especially on Korea game, the last game of the group, who will you choose?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. There's a lot to choose from. Yeah, I think for the Korea game, it's difficult to say, isn't it, Songwon? Because it of course depends a lot on the group situation, doesn't it? If maybe if Portugal need a win, if Korea need a win, if I'm saying from my point of view, if things go fairly well for Portugal, let's say, in the first two games, and they arrive their game perhaps needing a draw, for example, to win, or perhaps in the final game, Korea need to win. So in that case, you would expect South Korea to adopt a more attacking attitude. I think if that is the case, we might see a kind of, I could say, classic Fernando Santos performance where Portugal are play a little bit deep, and in that case we would need someone with a lot of pace forward. So I think if that was the scenario, I think that Rafael Leão could really do some damage in that game. But he's, it's also quite possible that he doesn't even start that game. I think just in general, the most important player for Portugal, I think, if Portugal are to have a really good World Cup, I think if Bernardo Silva really fires and plays his best football, I think that will make a huge difference for Portugal. He has done it sometimes for Portugal. He's been quite good for Portugal, I'd say, on the whole. Not as good as at Manchester City, where he just seems to be absolutely brilliant every single game. But yeah, in my opinion, I think he's probably the key for Portugal having a good World Cup. If Bernardo Silva is firing, is really on song, I think it could make a huge difference.
So even some Korean fans say that he reminds me of Ji-sung Park, the great great captain of Korea.
Please don't mention him. Of course.